Hey there, and welcome back. So, again, in our garden here, we have another major garden uh-oh. What appeared to have happened is that I had explained to my children how important nitrogen is when you are planting and transplanting tomato plants, and to put it in there in the planting holes. Now, they had thought that continuing forward to continue to add more coffee grinds, and we just found out. I woke up this morning, I took a look at these lower leaves here, I had some flower buds fall off, and I realized, no, my plant is experiencing some nitrogen burn. That's no good. We need to fix this ASAP, especially considering that this is our Tomato Grow Off 2019 tomato plant. So we are going to fix this right now and get this plant back perfectly healthy the way that it needs to be. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking some of the soil out, because the soil is going to have to be re-amended with a lot more of my regular plain potting mix with no fertilizer, no nothing, just some of the amending. I do have some compost mixed in with what I have left. Really don't want to take out more than what I have prepared. But another way that you can get rid of too much nitrogen in your plants is to water out as much of the nitrogen as possible, to give them anywhere from like 5 to 10 inches of water, and as it runs through, it will pull some of that nitrogen out. I'm going to take out, let's start with that. And while I'm fixing the soil, what I'm going to do with my tomato plant here, because this root ball probably has so much nitrogen sitting around it, is why we are getting, let me come closer so you can see, some of these burnt leaves. They look burnt, but they are getting burnt and dried up from the inside out, and we actually lost one of our flower buds right here. It just fell right off, which is another telltale sign of some nitrogen burning. And we also have some up here, which it looks like they may bounce back. I may have to pull, I'm definitely going to pull this leaf off. I may have to pull this off, we will see. But for now, I'm going to put this in some water and try to get as much of the nitrogen out of the plant as I can. Sit here and dip it. After I've dipped it a few times in the water and gotten most of that nitrogen out of the root ball, which is really not much of a root ball anymore, it's just roots because there's really no dirt left, which is basically what we want. We don't want any of that, any of the coffee grinds, any of the added nutrients. We don't want any of that on there anymore at this point, because there's just too much going on here. So I've gotten all of that pretty much off of there, which is good. And you can see quite a difference. Now we just have these long, gorgeous roots. There's like no dirt left. There's a little bit, not too much to speak of. So what I'm going to do now is, now that I've done that, is I'm going to sit that here in this bucket for a moment while I go and I dump this bucket of water, because as of now, there's going to be a lot of nitrogen in this water. So I'm going to go dump this out, put some more water in it so that it's nice and clean, and I'm going to go ahead and put the plant back in the water so that it can completely get it out. Those roots can soak up some fresh water without the nitrogen in it. Now we have some fresh, clean water that doesn't have any of that nitrogen in it, and I'm going to go ahead and take these roots and put them right back in this water and get out any more. Oh, I hope there aren't any more coffee grinds in here. When I dumped it, by the way, I was able to see a lot of coffee grinds, and I love when my children help me gardening, but they probably should not have done that part without me being there for that. So what I want to do is, I really want to dig through here, and I want to see where a lot of the problems are. I'm actually going to take out some more here. And now, after I am able to amend this, I'm going to run a lot of water through this pot so that if there is still too much nitrogen left in it, then we will kind of get a little bit of, you know, like pushing the restart button, so to speak. Now also what you can do, which is something that I kind of plan to do because I do need as much of the container mix soil as possible, is that I will run water through these smaller containers that I'm putting this like super nitrogen filled soil into, so that it will run that nitrogen right out. Now I may have to let the plant sit for a little while, and that'll be okay, because that will give me time to be able to fully amend not only the soil that's in this big container that I'm using for the plant, but I can amend the soil that are in these other two smaller containers that I plan to use in some other areas of my garden, now that I have to use my other container mix that I had planned for some other things. So we have a lot of things that we have to do here. So now I'm going to get my good, fresh, amended soil in here that is going to be much, much better for the plant, that is not high in nitrogen, so it will not cause any chemical burns on our plants. So let me get that done, and we'll come right back. Okay, so now that I've got my soil amended and fixed to where the nitrogen level and all that is just not too much where it's going to burn my plants, I'm going to go ahead and let the tomato plants sit in the water for a little bit longer. And it's actually starting to bounce back a lot quicker than I thought it would in the water. I actually may not have to remove the leaves, which is great. And because I decided to soak it in this water to help get rid of some of that nitrogen and have it really just soak up just straight, clean, pure water, it's actually separating these roots very well so that when I replant it, I will be able to spread these out quite far down here in the planting hole, so that the roots will be able to spread much more and the plant will be able to grow much healthier. So I'm going to sit and let that soak for a little while longer, and then we will come back and finish the project on fixing our huge garden uh-oh. So we'll be right back. Okay, so now that we've let this sit a bit longer, I feel like it's ready to put right back in here, let it get settled, and then I will replant the basil and add a little bit more to it. Might be a little bit of a surprise, but let's work on getting the problem fixed first. So we'll do that. I'm going to stir this up and try to get it as nice and fluffy as possible, because the roots most likely are very, very, very fragile. It's nice and loose. And as always, my soil is pre-moistened, just like a very clumpy brownie batter. You don't want it too muddy or too dry. So I'm just going to spread these out a little. And I also have amended some of that soil. So I'm going to pop some of that in here. Try to make this plant a little bit stronger, because tomato plants are great. They will root wherever you plant the stem. Roots will grow out sideways from the stem, whether they're in water or in just plain old dirt. Alright, so now we have our tomato grow-off plants all fixed up, and let's get a nice closer look at this. I hope you guys can see. I'm sorry, it's a little cloudy. The lighting's not so good. This was the worse off leaf. It is definitely not as dried out and burnt looking as it was before, which is great to see. I will probably still just remove them just to be safe, because the nitrogen could just be climbing up and out, and I don't want it to get any further into where any of the flower blossoms are and cause any more damage. So, just in case you're ever in a similar situation where your kids have accidentally put a little bit too many coffee grinds in your tomato planters, now you know how you can fix that garden uh-oh. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that button. If you liked the video, Make sure to give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to ring that bell so you don't miss any of our future uploads. Alright, we'll see you next time.